George Galloway.
This is going to be a significant piece of business. There was no trace of irony, Mr. Speaker, in the report. Once the Parliamentary Commissioner had decided, not once, but 6 times in his report, that he found no evidence in a 4-year investigation, this became a dispute about the funding of political campaigns. Mr. Speaker, being lectured by the current House of Commons is like being accused of slouching by the hunchback of Notre Dame. This House stands in utter ill repute on the question of the funding of political campaigns. This Parliament is stuffed full of spunk-loving sluts.
Order. The matters that he's raised are not relevant to this report.
With respect, they're highly relevant. It's a question of a committee of politicians criticising me when they themselves are spunk-loving sluts. Their committee is now known as the Double Standards Committee.
Order. I say to the honourable gentleman that all members of this committee acted in good faith and there's been no complaint whatsoever.
But Mr. Speaker, you say there's no complaint whatsoever, but I have a complaint. The country would surely be intolerable to forbid me to argue that the committee have acted unjustly. And Mr. Speaker, I'm really in a bit of a difficulty here. How can I argue that I've been treated unjustly without alluding to the fact?
What I'm saying to the honourable gentleman is order.
Mr. Speaker, I'm just 10 minutes into what I'm afraid is going to be a long speech, and it's been now regularly interrupted by our teasing out of what's in order and what's not in order. I do assure you, Mr. Speaker, there's considerable interest in this debate this evening in the country, and I don't think that the country would consider that it had been well served by the House of Commons if a member who's about to be thrown out was not allowed to proceed with the argument against him being thrown out that he had come here to make. Forgive me, yes.
I wonder if the honourable gentleman can help us. I understand from the report that he doesn't have any objection about the Commissioner for Standards. Is that a fair representation of the honourable gentleman's views?
Alas, no. In fact, the opposite. My complaints against the Commissioner are even more trenchant than the complaints I intend to adduce against the committee. I am, in fact, being suspended for 18 days because of the way I conducted my defence. Let me begin with my criticism of the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, Sir Philip Moore.
Order. Good temper and moderation are the characteristics of parliamentary language.
Mr. Speaker, this is now beginning to verge on the ridiculous. If you're to call at me every time I criticise the conduct of the inquiry, it will be seen, Mr. Speaker, as an attempt to gag me here. Mr. Speaker, my member, it's not a small thing. It is a long one. Here's a suggestion. Why don't you now insert it? If I may continue. I'm being suspended for 18 days because I described the committee as a politicised tribunal. How could it be other than be a politicised tribunal when it's composed of politicians? I swear to God that that is the truth.